In part 1 of passage planning for a small engineless boat, I went over the various steps I go through when planning a voyage in Naiad. In part 2, I described how I finally selected a voyage, and in this part 3, I'll show you what happened. Here I am once again, sitting on the boat in the evening. It's currently 7:10, and the tide turned a little while ago, so we're shortly going to be swinging round as the tide increases and pushes the boat around to face downstream. It's currently quite windy still. The forecast is for the wind to die down considerably during the night, and tomorrow be a lot easier to sail. Hopefully it'll be a good day for sailing, but I won't know, of course, until we actually get there. At the moment it's a bit sort of dull, overcast, a little cool, and I think I will shortly think about going to bed. I've got to get up at 4 o'clock tomorrow morning, about an hour and a half before sunrise, and see what the weather is doing. If the wind stays as it is, even the strength that it is, then we are a go for a trip up the Colne. The Colne is actually down that channel and turn left, and the wind is currently blowing from the right as we face down channel, which means even though it's quite strong at present, I'll be going downwind and I can have just one or both of the headsails up. That will not be too much wind, too much sail, should I say, and then that will take me nicely across the island to the mouth of the Colne, and then I will take the tide up the Colne, and hopefully by then the wind will have died down a little bit. Even so, I can put a couple of reefs in the main, and we'll see how that goes. I don't know whether I can actually see the Thames barge over in the distance there. I can just about see it sailing along. I'll stand up and see it is way over there, doing very nicely. I don't suppose they've got their engine on. It looks like they've got the main and a headsail up. Doesn't look like they've got the mizzen up at all, so they're doing quite nicely. Don't know where they're going. They may be doing an overnight. They may come into the quarters and anchor off the quarters, but they're a long way over on the other side of the river, so I don't think that's what they're going to be doing. Still, it's a good win for them, even if it's a little bit strong for me. Still got some people playing on the beach over there. We've got some swimmers, look like they're about to go in for a swim. We've got a family over there with a dog swimming and somebody in the water. Apparently the water is quite warm at this the time of the year, but it's not something I'm particularly interested in trying just yet. I may have to go into the water sometime during the summer to scrub the bottom of the boat, but that's not something I'm really looking forward to. Still, if it's got to be done, it's got to be done. For now, things are going fairly well, and hopefully things will stay going fairly well. The departure from the mooring was pretty uneventful. I'd prepared most things before I turned in for the night, and there were just a few things left to be done before casting off. There was, however, one thing to do that I hadn't counted on, and that was when I tried to turn on the cabin lights, nothing happened. It was 3:30 and still dark, so I used a torch to get up and get dressed, and then started looking for the electrical problem. It wasn't difficult to find. The ship's battery was flat. Fortunately, 3 months ago I bought an Eco Power Max, a 12-volt portable power station, and I'd also purchased an extra 12-volt lead that plugged into the power station and had 2 crocodile clips on the free end. By torchlight I unscrewed the battery cables and clamped them into the croc clips. then turned the 12-volt supply on, and bingo, I had power again, which is just as well since it was still dark and I needed to have the navigation lights turned on when sailing. You can see the power station in the photo I took a bit later in the daylight. A cabin is a bit of a mess at this point, since I just stowed all the things I leave in the cockpit overnight willy-nilly and without much thought of tidiness. Finally, I made some tea and put it into a travel mug, and I was ready to go. The wind wasn't that strong anymore, but in more or less the same direction as last night, so the trip out of the Buzzard Fleet was uneventful, and I was soon sailing in the direction of the River Colne, assisted by the ebb tide. Sunrise. Rather nice, and heading downwind towards the Colne. Just thought I'd take a quick video around so you can see what it's like with the sunrise, which is really rather nice. Not much else to see around here, of course, but then, as I've said before, and I'll continue saying no doubt, sailing videos are really boring. So let's just have a quick look around astern of us. Those are the Bradwell power station, and I came from over there somewhere, so not doing too bad so far. Still got about an hour to low water, and I'm coming up on the wreck mark. Probably can't see it in this video, but I'll take another video when we get a bit closer. For some strange reason, the audio on this clip went completely doolally, so I've deleted it and a voiceover will have to suffice. This is the east cardinal mark that marks the position of a wreck, and as it is an east mark, I'm staying to the east of it. I could probably go the other side, between it and the mudbank, but there's no point really. I'm not in a hurry, and the only real reason for going the other side would be to shorten the journey and save time, which I don't need to do. Sailing quite slowly up the Colne at the moment. Progress is probably more due to the flood tide than anything else, but this is the entrance to Pyfleet Creek, or the Pyfleet, and as you can see it's fairly popular for anchoring. There's the Thames barge, and I think that's the one I saw yesterday. And they've got themselves a nice little anchorage there. Very pleasant place to stop for an anchor, but that's not where I'm going. Well, that over there is Rat Island, and over there, I think you might be able to see that, there's a yellowish buoy marking the entrance to South Geedon Creek, and somewhere up ahead is the entrance to North Geedon Creek. Not there yet, but that low-lying sort of islandy thing in the mud over yonder, there's a yellow buoy against the edge of the saltings by the looks of it. That is Rat Island, and there is the entrance to North Geedon Creek, or North Geedon Channel, and we are at let me see, quarter to 8, so we are an hour or so, a couple of hours after high water. So that creek looks to be like a good place to be spending the night. Hopefully I'll be able to get in there on the return trip. We'll see. I've stopped. That's the outskirts of Colchester over there, and you can see more high-rise buildings over there, and I'm temporarily attached to this old wharf, mainly because there isn't really enough wind to maintain steerage way, and although the tide is coming in, it's getting more and more difficult to maintain proper progress, so I thought I'd stop and have a cup of tea. It's about 2 hours before high water, so once I've made the tea, I'll cast off again and see what happens. There's sort of wind over on the other side. You can see the wind blowing in the reeds and the rushes over there, but there doesn't seem to be very much, or enough shall we say, to go against this tide, so it might just be worth waiting a while and letting it calm down, or I might just push on and use a paddle and get as far as I can before the tide turns. North Geeden Creek. It's Rat Island over there ahead. I'm anchored in the creek at the moment, and that over there is the firing range, Fingeringo firing range. There's no firing going on there at the moment, which is convenient really. And you can see the mud appearing over there, and I came from up there, and I have to say this last bit was quite hard work, mainly because the wind got up and it's an ebb tide, so you have wind over tide. It was very choppy, and Naiad really doesn't like that very much. Still, there we are. Now there's a yellow buoy over there, and it says access forbidden 200 metres ahead. Well, that's only 50 metres away, so I should be alright. And down there is the river backwater, and I'm going to stay here the night. I could have gone a little bit further up into the creek, I think, but I don't know where the channel goes. So I'm in fairly deep water here right now, and I'll just wait until more of the mud appears, and then if it looks like I can get further up, then I might do that. It just depends on whether this slop goes down. It'll probably will. The forecast for tomorrow is relatively light winds, and as soon as the tide changes, it won't be wind over tide anymore, so the waves will diminish. Not that it makes a great deal of difference, I have to say. I can sleep through this, no problem. This is North Geeden Creek at low water. As you can see, there's still plenty of water in the channel. Naiad is still afloat, even though the mud is quite close. I'd say she's probably only just afloat. The depth stick shows that she probably has about 10 centimetres of water under her, so not at all bad. The problem is going to be getting out through that entrance. You can see it's actually very narrow, and I'm going to be attempting it A, in the dark, and B, on a falling tide, so I can't afford to get it wrong. So rather than risk leaving it too late, I'm going to get up an hour earlier than I had expected, so that there's plenty of water through that gap, and hopefully that'll mean I'll get out without getting stuck. Again, we're going to have to see. So how's it all going? Well, as you can see, that's the East Cardinal mark, marking the wreck just off Mersey Holiday Park. It's a beautiful morning. It's 6:15, and I'm going to be too early to get back on my mooring. The winds have played out pretty much as expected. I got up at midnight, or just gone midnight, a little before high water, to check that the anchor wasn't dragging and there was plenty of scope of chain out. There was, and the wind at that time was blowing straight down the channel and out into the main river, so that was good. But when I got up at 3 o'clock, I found that there was no wind at all, completely calm. But I had to get up and get going, because I needed to get out through the very narrow entrance with the ebb. So got up, did all the necessary, pulled up the anchor and drifted out with the ebb, paddling occasionally just to maintain some steerage way, and got out into the main channel, and a little bit of wind, hardly any, in fact. I mean, it was virtually calm. So I put the main up and one of the headsails, and just got enough steerage way so that I didn't need to paddle any further. So we drifted, sailed down the river and out of the river into the Blackwater. And the wind was a bit fitful to start off with, but enough to keep me going, and surprisingly enough to stop me from being taken too far out and in the wrong direction by the ebb tide. And now the wind has filled in a little. It's lovely, just on the beam, so beam reaching, and currently doing just under 2 knots, and it's not even low water yet, so I am going to arrive at my destination far too early to get over the mud at the end of the Bees and Buzzin Fleet, and so I'm going to have to anchor on the quarters or somewhere off West Mersey until there's enough water for me to sail in. So beautiful. Oh, there we go, cormorant. Lovely sail, beautiful weather. Would have been nice had this been a bit later in the day, but that's the way things are. So things have played out pretty much exactly as forecast. So plan A has worked extremely well, and I'm very happy with it.